you, I'll jump in. Hi, everybody. We're back to doing another one of these Creative Courage chats. And I'm here with Shahab Zargari today. And
Hello.
he is a very talented guy. I've known him for a while, and he wears a lot of hats. Well, he's technically, you're not wearing one today. It's kind of the first time
Which is weird, right? I think it's because, I got my podcast things on and it like crushes me. It is my calling card.
Yeah.
But it's weird that you're wearing one and I'm not.
Oh, right. Yeah. You are what I call a general specialist. You have a lot of skills in a lot of different areas. And you, as far as creatives go, are someone who really has made an effort to explore a lot of different things, and you're driven by your curiosity. That's like my little personal observation of the kind of guy you are.
And that's interesting. I say interesting because as human beings, we don't usually have, looking inward kind of thing, have the camera pointed at us. And it's interesting. Thank you. Thanks for the kind words.
Yeah. Well, that's what this is about. This is about you. This is the reason I do these, is because I love talking to people and because I can fill a room with words, and I find myself talking a lot all the time. So I want to hear from other people. So why don't you just give a little history of Shahab? Tell us a little bit about what it is you do.
So I think at the basis level, the easiest answer is I'm a creative. That's the easiest elevator pitch I have, because otherwise it's impossible. Like you said, I wear many different hats, and it's not micromanaging kind of a lot of different hats. It's just I'm interested in a lot of different things. Usually if someone is a musician, I mean, that's kind of what they hone in on. And not to knock that, because that's how you get better at what you do, and that's how you become a master, right?
One quick thing. Well, I don't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah,
a lot of people say they're going to do things, or they think they're creative because they're going to say it. Very few people actually do it and accomplish it. I mean, you made a film. I mean, you came up with an idea, and you probably made more than one. So
I've made several, and I'm working on my next one.
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, there's things that people say that they do. So call themselves creative because they dabble, but you do a little more than dabble. So I'm just throwing that out, but go ahead.
Yeah. And to kind of, jump off that point, mm-hmm. I believe anyone and everyone can do that and be that. It just takes the courage. And sometimes it's a fake it till you make it courage. And sometimes it's a courage from having done it so many times before that you just, you know how to take care of yourself in those kinds of situations. And a lot of, me and my wife, we put out records on our record label. We make films and, art projects and performance art and things of this nature. And it's kind of stemmed from my teenage years when, because a lot of the stuff I was interested in was like experimental noise music from Japan and just stuff that wasn't popular culture, none of the things I was doing was being picked up and published or, released or, given national, press. And more often than not came from, oh, well, you can't do that. Leave that to the professionals. Leave that to the Jay-Z's of the world.
Yeah, that's what people stifle constantly.
And that's usually where, that lack of courage, and you say, okay, well, I guess you're right. It always made me the other way. I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll show you. I'll put out my own record in that case.
Yeah, that's true. You're constantly that's either you make a choice on how you're going to take that information. Is it a challenge, or is it going to convince you to just try something else and not even go for it? But that's true.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's why I do a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you said when I was a kid, I experimented. You're younger than me, but when we had a tape deck, you dabbled in all the things I've dabbled in. But I remember having a tape deck and then discovering that how a tape deck works just from looking at it is that when you put a blank tape in, or a tape that you've used, it just doesn't record over it. There's a little magnet, and the magnet erases what was on there before and records something new. And so when I realized that, I thought, oh, that's interesting. So my mom used to make drapes, and at the bottoms of the drapes, they would be weighed down with these lead weights. So I took one of the lead weights and I hammered it flat into a little piece of almost like foil. and then I wrapped it over the magnet. So and then I would record conversations with my friends, and then I put the tape in, and then I recorded music over it. So they were overlapped because it wasn't
That's
erasing anymore.
awesome.
And then I didn't know what would happen because I couldn't hear it. So I would just kind of make assumptions of where it was going to happen, and then I'd overlap them over and over again. And then I would sit and I would listen to this cacophony of like sounds and noises, and every once in a while something would came up out of it.
Mesh.
But
Yeah.
like most of it was chaos, but then every once in a while something would go boom, like the door would
That's
open up
amazing.
right
I
on a
love
beat
that.
or something.
And coincidentally.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's totally coincidentally. And the kind of the evolution of that and that curiosity I had, and just sitting there and listening to the sounds of it was really fascinating. You know what I mean? And you know, you were in my workshop, right? So so you know, so there's, and I'm not going to tell the story again. If anybody's interested, they can see my workshop. But there is that situation in the story about the Vietnam vet, and how there's a thing that happened to me at that moment that I didn't realize it was something that was important until years later. And it was just experiencing things. And I think that's something that people need to realize is we've all been through these things that are really interesting. And there's these moments where things do come together, but they just kind of fade away into the ether. And I know I'm talking very abstractly, but I kind of feel like creatives know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Because when you're looking and you're searching and you're discovering things, there is sometimes no order to it. Sometimes it's just chance. There it is. I got to take a chance. There's the link. And it's like there's a hunting that happens.
And I also feel like, think about friends and family, or maybe certain projects that you've done yourself where you just never finished it. I've got this novel, never finished it. I've got this painting, never finished it, right?
I'm working on something now too. It's not finished.
And, that can be a bummer, but as long as that happens to everybody.
Oh, yeah.
And then, just kind of injecting that courage into it. I remember when I was working on my first film, it was 13 months of post-production, and that was 4 days of live action shooting and then animation for the rest of it. And, we're grueling through these, over a year working on this thing. And one of my friends in LA, she's in the film, and we're talking, and she said, it's better to finish it as good as it's going to get and put it out into the world rather than toil over it for 50 years and no one will ever see it kind of thing.
Was this a Stephen King one adaptation?
This was not this was the one right before that. This was the Philip K. Dick adaptation.
Okay, so now you've tapped people's curiosity. Where can they find your work so they can start looking at it?
So if you look up shahabzargari.net, that's my website, and all kinds of links on there to my films, to my YouTube channel, whatever, pick your poison kind of thing.
It'll be right under your mug there. I'll have it all down there.
Perfect.
So that'll be great. But people should check out his work. It's pretty cool stuff.
And it varies depending on concept, depending on budget. That first film, the one that I was talking about, we spent about $25,000 on that. And I always joke, it was 2013, and that was the joke is, instead of buying my wife a new car, we made a movie. And rightfully so. She's the executive producer and all that kind of jazz. But yeah, so essentially I was working on this thing. It's never going to be done. And she said, it's either make it it's as good as it's going to get, and put it out there. And things that I saw, the flaws that I saw, they don't even see it. With all of my films, there are people who love the films and there are people who absolutely trash it. But the people who critique it, absolutely zero of the reviews are the things that make me feel icky. They don't even notice those things, And so
that's how it is.
It's your personal preference. You don't like it? Perfect. Yeah. I'm good with that.
You also tapped into something very important for anybody that wants to actively find out how to get paid for their creativity. If you're looking to really be, and I appreciate you using the word courage so often because it is part of the name of my
it is
the whole thing. But the because it's true. But one of the most important things you can do as a creative going forward is to marry somebody who is supportive. I know his
That is,
patience.
no, totally, yeah. You
Yeah.
need that yang to your yin
Oh,
because
big time. And smarter. And smarter than you, and willing to be honest to you about the criticisms, because very rarely does my wife go, "Hey, that's pretty good." Very
totally.
rarely. She'll say, "All right, that's all right." But when she comes unsolicited, sometimes it totally surprises me, and she'll say, "That was really good when you did the thing." It's usually when I don't ask her. If I ask her, I think she needs to critique. But if I don't ask, then she's willing to give me the.
That's
It's
funny.
important. It's important to have that reality. You know what I mean? Because sometimes we live in our own heads, and a creative needs to have a pretty healthy ego.
I love critiques.
Oh
That's
yeah,
how I get better. It's how I hone my,
right. And a healthy ego also includes your ability to take criticism, because that's a huge part of it. And I think that that's one of the things I say to young artists. I say is you got to build a thick skin, get hit really hard, put everything you've got into your work, and then have it not get used, and then wake up the next morning and put the same amount of energy into the work. Because it's like, because that's what it is. It's just constant, just put things out there. And there's this weirdness that a lot of artists have, that they think their work is, I don't know, it's like mythological or something. My I remember my niece one time told me was or she wanted to talk to me because she wanted to quit her painting class in school. I don't think I'm going to do this anymore, Uncle Alex. I don't think I can do it. And I was like, well, why not? She said, well, my teacher, he's a jerk, and he's trying to make me do paint things. I don't want to paint, and he's trying to make me do all these things, and I don't like it. I don't think I'm cut out for this. I don't think I can handle this stuff. And I said, okay, go ahead and quit. I don't care. I said, it doesn't matter to me. I said, you're just going to live your life doing whatever you want to do eventually, but you'll be an amazing artist at the same time. So either you focus your energy into that and succeed at that, or not. You'll be like Elvis Presley working at the gas station that eventually grabs a guitar and plays an amazing song and then goes back to working on cars, like in the movie.
Yeah.
It's like it's just who you are. You don't get to decide anymore. You are an artist. You are a creative, and it's your choice on what you're gonna do with
And
that
it is
talent.
nice to have a partner in crime that will, support you and critique you and,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
that support is very, very important. I have friends and I've been in relationships where, the
yeah.
other side just, they not only don't support you, they tear you down, and that can affect you the other way.
My niece ended up, saying, "I don't like talking to you about this stuff," because she started to realize my point. My point being that whatever you want to do is fine. I said, you haven't even sold any art yet. So technically I don't think you're an artist until you sell something. So I was kind of rough on her, but guess what? She's a working artist now. She's
Oh, how long
making
ago
money.
was that?
This was about a decade ago. So now
Okay.
she's a
Oh,
working
that's
artist.
cool.
She's doing her best, and she's fantastic. She's a better artist than I've ever been. So she's fantastic. She was just going through something, and I didn't feel like pandering her and patting her ego. I wanted to give her a little dose of reality. Say, you know what? It's on you. This is 100% your effort. If you need people to keep telling you how great you are, you're not doing it for the right reasons. You got to be able to hunt
Yeah.
this stuff on your own. Speaking of video, I was just rendering a video and it just popped up. It took me off the screen.
Nice.
Anyway, so that kind of leads me into kind of the bigger question of what we wanted to talk to you about. So you teach.
So I don't teach. I work at the College of Fine
Oh,
Arts in the
well,
dean's office. So
okay.
I have given lectures and I have done that thing, but I don't create syllabus. I don't.
Okay,
So
that's a technicality.
technicality.
You
Because
work with young people, and you're in education, and you are connected to to teaching people how to. What is it? Tell me a little bit about what you do there.
So I'm communications for the college. So two of my main points are getting the word out about all of the events that happen. It's the most event-heavy college on the campus, with the music school and the dance department and film department, to theater. And then the other side of what I do is also, in a sense, recruitment. This is the college, this is what's going on, this is why you want a degree from here, kind of content, if you will. And and occasionally, like for example, Jerry, who runs the Donna Beam Gallery, every semester he's been bringing me into his classroom for a one day talk with Shahab, so he can tell you what he's doing for the College of Fine Arts, and can you use that once you graduate with your art degree. Speaking of partner, there's my partner right there. Say hi, it's Alex.
How you doing?
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing? It's been a
We
while.
were just talking you up recording this podcast here.
Yes. Yes. Good to see you.
She just got back from her first day back at the library after lockdown.
Oh.
Library's not open, but they're getting things ready.
Before all this happened, I had a philosophy that is good luck to hug a librarian. So you give her a hug for me, all right?
All right, we'll do it.
All right, it's good to see you.
All right, let me plug these back in. I unplugged.
But that's the first time we met. It's because of the campaign, the Rescue My Library campaign.
That's true. Do you want to tee that up? You want to talk about that a little bit?
Oh, I don't know. I guess we could.
I thought it was an ingenious idea.
Oh, well, thank you.
And then we just put elbow grease together and worked on it together.
That's what impressed me about you was that it was just an idea. The thing that was great about it, I think, is that there was a campaign that was asking for a tax initiative, and it was only like a couple cents, on the dollar kind of a thing, to help with paying for to rescue 2 new libraries. So we did this campaign, and it was hard to get people to want to pay a little more in taxes, but we thought the library, we couldn't really, we were the marketing firm for the library district, and they said, well, we can't do anything because it's a conflict of interest. So I said, well, can we do it pro bono? We'll just do whatever we want. And Tom Fay said, sure. So we had free reign, and so we had this campaign we did, and it was I don't want to get into the whole thing, but you, for whatever reason, got inspired to help out, and so you did a film for us, and you were involved, and that was fantastic. And I was like, who is this guy willing to do all this work for, like, we were doing for nothing? We were doing it for nothing, and then you were willing to do the same thing.
Well, and of course, Gila did work there at the time.
Oh,
so
yes.
it was a little selfish, but at the same time, because I immediately got this idea of a voiceover commercial guy going, a few cents on the dollar, but why? And then okay, well, this is why, because that's where everyone was coming from. Right. But why? Like, okay, let's start there, and let's explain why. Mm-hmm. It didn't necessarily work as far as having.
We got closer than Clark County. We got closer than Clark County School District, though. And they actually had paid people working for them. So,
boom.
And we got very close.
What I was going to say, though, was I feel it didn't work because we were the little rock had started the avalanche leading to the political not believing in anything and claiming things that you don't know as fact to be fake news kind of era that was leading to that.
Yeah, and there was like no new taxes for any reason, billions in dollars going into campaigns like that all over the country. So it was a uphill battle from there, but we still did pretty well. And what it did is it's still alive, actually. That the Facebook page is still rocking, and every once in a while I'll post something on there for the library district, and people respond immediately because library people are loyal, and they are I still get people following the page. And it's not as active as it used to be, but it's become kind of its own thing. And they wanted it up. I mean, so Rescue My Library is still up there on Facebook, and people are still doing it. But anyway,
so cool.
It's hard to talk about this without getting too deep into it. So let's move on back to the topic.
What was the original topic? Yeah.
The original was education. I want to talk about creativity and education. Some of your views on that. I have.
Well, so this is perfect because of COVID, every faculty member at the College of Fine Arts had to pivot and figure something out in the 6-7 days the kids were on spring break, right? And how do we move to remote instruction? How, I remember being in those early meetings before they shut down the university, and you had sculpture professors going, how do I teach sculpture remotely when the big huge tools that they need to melt this metal and do all this stuff it only exists on campus. They don't have it in their dorm room. They don't have it at home, and all that kind of stuff. And so how do you teach choir from Zoom kind of thing? And so everyone was, trying to figure it out. And, you had pushback from the students. Well, what am I paying for really? And that kind of thing, if I'm not going to be in a classroom. And, which, just personal opinion, not, anybody at the university's opinion, but in my opinion, this is something that's happening to every school in every city, everywhere. Everyone's on lockdown because a virus is killing tens of thousands of people. Of course you're not, I don't know. I felt like it was too much of a first world problem kind of situation.
Well, the thing is that this is what I struggle with. There's nothing more important than being creative. Everything good that happens in the world comes from those little things that fire off in your brain that we refer to as creativity. So anything that we do is valuable in the path of creativity. The person who comes up with a vaccine for this virus is going to be using their creativity more than they're going to be using their basic knowledge of science. They're going to take that knowledge, but they're going to wield it. And by wielding it, they will find a way to find a solution. Now, the tools that the manner in which they wield that knowledge is what you do and what everybody at that school does for these students. So if you're a sculpture teacher and you don't have the equipment, is there still something to learn about sculpture? Is there other things you can do?
Exactly.
Are there things within the house that you can use? Because is it really about the machines, or is it about these kids using their minds to build things?
Exactly. So if you're going to put another little thing down here, hashtag UNLV sculpture a day. That's the hashtag. There's over 100, 200 posts over the past 8 weeks or so from students. I mean, semester's officially over now, but I mean, so much creativity, so many really, really great things. The Barrack Museum of Art, they were like, okay, well, we're closed, so nobody can come see the exhibitions. So they kicked off an online exhibition and call for art. And so I can't remember if it was 4 weeks or 6 weeks. They had daily prompts. Draw your breakfast, draw your way to work, draw your this, draw your that, and
Fantastic.
So, I mean, it was great. And you would see people from Australia and Germany, like, hey, I want to chime in. I want to do this kind of thing. So it was really cool to see that, nobody at the college buckled. Everyone came up with genius things to, make the education worth it, but also make the students work for, not necessarily work for the grade, but, like work to hone their skills, if you will. And so the graphic design students couldn't do a capstone event. So it's a website. You go to the websites, UNLV Pathfinder. The MFAs created a website. The BFA students couldn't do an artist talk in front of people. And so they had to figure something out. And so it was this process where each student hopped onto Adobe Spark, created a slideshow of their work, and then within Spark, all they needed was a microphone, recorded their artist talk, kicked that over to me. I created on the official College of Fine Arts YouTube channel a playlist. So now you can watch your friend, your son, your brother, your sister, or if you're just a community member, you can sit there and watch all 5, 6 of these artist talks. It is weird that it's an artist talk, not at a gallery, not in front of people, but we got creative and we did it. One last point to that. We have been for the past couple weeks, and I think it's going to continue on, I guess, until we run out of steam. But very early on in the lockdown, the dean of the college said, we've got to, arts are an essential service, and they always will be. And especially during this pandemic when people are, binging movies and coloring books and, all these different things. I mean, they're really going to the arts for to process what's going on in the world and all that. And so she said, I really want to showcase what is going on creatively within the college and showcase it. Otherwise, no one's going to know. It's all going to be behind the scenes. And so, and each of these 30-minute YouTube shows are, a couple segments each, quick in and out, where we showcase alumni and students and what they're doing during the pandemic. And it's pretty interesting. And so episode 6 is going live. That's the global episode. And so that where we delve into our students who went to Edinburgh to the Fringe Festival and did lighting design. One of our architecture students, actually quite a few of them, went to Mexico for 4 weeks to not only study the architecture of Mexico City, but actually, not be a tourist, like live there and be there with the people, looking at the parks and looking at the architecture, learning from the universities there. So that was, and it's kept me busy. That is for sure. Working on these weekly episodes. I mean, it's been fun, and it's been grueling, and it's been great. But I highly recommend it. It's another hashtag, UNLV Arts Worldwide. There's 6 episodes so
fantastic.
far. Yeah.
I love that. That's very cool.
That's probably like more example-based answer to that question, but
no, that's perfect. Yeah, I think that's important. I think, and I love that people be able to kind of see what. Maybe I'll even include some of the videos in this thing. I don't know, I'll have
sure.
to edit it in or something. But no, that's great. That's so cool. It's funny because I think that a lot of times I think art schools and people that encourage young artists, it almost feels like your childhood is like floating away from a boat, and like we're throwing life preservers out there with ropes on them and trying to pull them back because
Mm-hmm.
because I think that's where it comes from. It comes from young people. Whenever I talk to young people, I always feel like I'm telling them things they already know. It's just either they forgot or because I require I need to talk. I like talking to them because I think I always feel renewed in the way that I look at things. You can tell sometimes from the questions that they ask and their perspectives on things. And the best is because they tear it down to sometimes the most basic
minimum, yeah.
Which is so good because we're so full of nonsense, especially when we get older. There's nothing up here that's, only 10% of what's up here is worth anything really right now. There's like so much garbage in there. And I think that there's a lot less, it's funny because I did this, I tried to share it and they wouldn't let me share it on Facebook for whatever reason. But I saw this picture of myself as a kid on a big wheel. And it made me I started thinking about it and about being a kid at that age and how much I loved that freaking big wheel. And it reminded me of my mom telling me that during that time that I would have all this empathy and I gave inanimate objects names. Like all of my furniture had its own name. And I would rotate the chairs on my dining table so that each of them had a chance to be by the window. Because I felt like they didn't all have the chance to be near a window and they couldn't see outside. So I would rotate them because I felt bad for the chairs. And of course, the one that had to go the furthest, I felt the worst for. And then I would leave. When I'd leave, I'd say goodbye to the refrigerator. I'd say goodbye to the lamp. I was a lunatic, okay, as a little kid.
That's funny.
I had a lot of this weird empathy. And even to this day, I look at objects and I get a feeling from an object. Like I get a sense of something. When you look at, when you're doing, because I know you're a marketing guy, and then you're looking at designing logos and things like that. Certain letters have a feel to them. There's certain letters that.
Or even with graffiti, like you're
right.
like, what's Elk 1? And then you're like, wait, but those letters just look good together.
There's something about the way that they are, and you get feelings from inanimate objects, and that's something that's primal in us, that we're moved for some reason by this shape and this figure. And you don't need to know why. You just need to know that it's there and feel it. And if you want to express those feelings, that's a good thing too. But there's something there that, because it's hard for us to, because a lot of times if people don't understand something, they write it off. And I think that's a mistake. I think that you don't need to know everything. It's kind of like a guitar. Like Eric Clapton is a great guitar player, but give him some wood and some wires. Could he build one? No,
No, yeah.
couldn't build one. But boy, he knows how to play one. Now you look at the other guy who can't play like him, who can build it, right? We just don't know who the builder is. We're not really clear on. You can go religious if you want, but the mechanics of this thing isn't as important as the thing it's capable of, and being aware of its capacity and playing with that as much as possible.
And I normally don't worry too much about whether or not, students that I end up talking with, whether or not they know where I'm coming from or already know this information. Because even when I go to conferences, I mean, I bump into people who are like, well, I already knew all of that. I'm like, yes, I did, I went to the social media panel. I know what Twitter is. I know what Instagram is. And yet, as humans, we get stuck in these ruts. Maybe that's the wrong word, but we get comfortable. And are we, okay, I know how to run a campaign. Am I still running it the way I should? Or am I now comfortable in just pushing the blue boost button on Facebook and forgetting about it, right? So, I think it's very important, especially when they're, high school, college, and they're still trying to figure things out, because I remember not knowing how to do anything. And even though I would go to advisors and things of that nature, I really didn't have anyone telling me, look, once you get your degree, you're going to have to go out there and shake hands and network, and that is so tough, especially when you're focusing on whatever it is that you're, whether it's your bachelor's degree or your thesis. So.
Yeah, there's so much we could talk about. I feel like we could do it
You
2 hours.
2 hour. Yeah.
Yeah. We're getting close to the end of this thing, but I kind of real quick. So you really expressed some really cool ideas on how to adapt to the environment, that we're going through. And you gave me some solid examples of things that are being done in the school. What advice do you have for young people who maybe, or let's just say is possibly watching this, when you have an opportunity and you see somebody, because I get a lot where you get a young person who wants to do something, but they're intimidated because their family or their friends or society in general, a lot of times says, there's no money in it, kiddo. What are you doing? What do you say
So
to them?
I have two separate but sort of related ideas there. On the one hand, don't listen to anybody. Do what you feel is right. Namely, when my wife and I started this record company, again, it was because no one else was releasing my music. I did it for a personal thing, and then we started releasing records for friends' bands, and then it's kind of exploded. And this whole time, I had my parents going, "What is it you're doing? Each one of these projects costs $2,000 to $5,000 before marketing. Like, what are you doing with your life?" Kind of thing, right? Like, finish your degree. Come on. And then fast forward, June of 2019, we had the record label's 20-year anniversary festival, right? So
Fantastic.
stick to it. If it's what you believe in, if it's what you feel, do it. So that's one nugget. The other thing I want to talk about is something that is called pro bono work. Okay, we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, right?
Yeah.
Should I or shouldn't I? Because that really plays into the am I getting paid thing, right? So on the one hand, you should expect to always get paid. That's just number one. Number one. For all of the work you put in school and honing your craft, and then let's say once you're out and you're out of college for 5 years, 10 years, now you've gained actual work experience. So all of that leads into it. That being said, if there is a project, call it your own, call it a friend who came up with an idea, needs your help, call it a nonprofit who just can't afford you but really needs the help and you really feel for the cause. If it is something that in your heart of hearts will make you happy, whether that's creatively or because it's a nonprofit or what have you, then by all means do it for the reduced rate or the free kind of thing, right? Um, and that's your decision. That's up to you. You make that final decision. Now, if for any reason you're looking at this pro bono work and it wasn't your idea to join in, they're telling you that they'll give you stocks or whatever the case may be. If you feel fishy, if you feel like it's too much and you don't want to do it, don't do it. So those are my two little nuggets. You should get paid what you're worth. And if you feel like doing something pro bono, well, you go do that thing.
Yeah. It's cliche to say it, but if you're working, you're always getting paid. Sometimes it's not in dollars, but you're getting paid in what you're learning and what you're experiencing. We did do the campaign pro bono, and I would have done it again. I do it again for the experience that I got out of it, the satisfaction I got out of it.
We met out of it.
Yeah, you and I met
and are still, yeah.
The library benefited from it. It created this new loyalty, and actually it shined a light on the loyalty that people are proud of their library. And now all of a sudden they had a place to talk about the pride that wasn't polished. It was a campaign that was, we had dystopian pictures of ruined libraries and things like that. That was fun to do. But there was
fun.
It was an interesting campaign. I learned a lot from it, and I learned about human nature and the power of the public and the power of social media and our ability to use that in a positive way. Because social media gets bad rap. It should in a lot of cases. It's such an open platform, but so is democracy and freedom of the country. That was a huge risk. Is to let the community decide who their leaders are. That was unheard of back in the day. It's like there was a whole new experiment, and we've had our ups and downs, and we're still figuring it up as we go. But it's still the best way to make a sausage, in my opinion. It's you gotta kind of roll with the punches, and if you're comfortable, you're failing. You have to be uncomfortable. You have to be working and feeling like it's a struggle. If it's a struggle, then you're really doing something.
Yeah.
I kind of
agree.
I think that kids a lot of times they lean towards the creative because they think it'll be fun and it'll feed their soul, and then they realize it's actually work. And what you're talking about with the pro bono thing is it's rough because, well, why am I going to use my talents for free? Your talent is valueless unless it's actively being appreciated by other people. Right?
I don't know, to a certain extent, don't do it for the credit.
No.
Don't do it for the money. Do it because it's what you love to do. It's what you're good at.
Right.
Because let's face it, to get good at something, you have to practice it all the time. And if it's something you love, practice is fun.
Right. See, so. I know this. I sometimes when I talk to young people about art, I sound like a grumpy old man but I think that it's a good lesson to learn. I think this is an important lesson personally and I kind of touched on a little bit when we talked about my niece, but for me, there's no value in art. The value.
Strange coming from an artist.
Right. The value is in how it came to be. What you're paying for is the
that's
ability
good,
to
actually.
create.
That's great.
I think that once a piece of art is done, it's dead. Now, to the artist, the piece that I did ceases to have value that I created, because now my job is, once that's done, is to build something else. And now the value is in the process it's taking me to create the other piece of art. Now, the art you created, another person could pick it up and then find value in it. That's great. That's the point. But then they put it down and it's dead again. It's only alive when a human being is consuming it and giving it its attention. When they're not, it ceases to exist and it doesn't matter anymore.
The universe then becomes a group of molecules again.
Right. So I think that there's a value in that, because it dumbs down this ego of yours, and you realize that you have a purpose now. Your purpose is to express yourself, because in that expression, it feeds you and it inspires someone else to express themselves. And the act of expressing yourself lifts us all up and creates opportunity. And those opportunities are what is going to get us out of this freaking mess we're in right now. Politically, emotionally, medically, it's that attitude that
economically,
yeah, incredibly important. And I think that everything, see what I mean? There's nothing more important than creativity, man. Nothing.
Yeah,
It all
I
boils
agree.
down to this. It all boils down to us figuring stuff out and solving problems.
And
Anyway,
hopefully we've helped some people figure some stuff out. I think this was a great
I'm supposed to be
conversation.
wrapping up. I'm the one who wraps this up.
Oh, sorry.
This is my show.
You know what? It's a bad habit from being on the AMA podcast. I'm also everybody. Yeah, sorry.
I know you're just a natural.
This is backwards day. You're wearing the hat. I got no hat.
So. Yeah, it was till then. But anyway, thanks, man. Yeah.
Thanks for
having
having
me.
me.
Little closing thoughts. I'm not going to talk anymore. Any other closing thoughts you have?
No, thanks for watching. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
All right, terrific. This was fun. All right, everybody, be more creative. All right, and check out the links and all this stuff. This guy, he's talented. Check out his stuff.
Thank you.
All right.